Welcome back to The Fighter and the Writer. I'm Chris Mannix. He is Sergio Mora. He's the fighter. I'm the writer. Sergio, we are back in Los Angeles, back in studio, back from Saudi Arabia. How was your reacclimation to the American life?
It was easy because I got to spend so much time at the Qatar airport, enjoying myself, even though that was the American life.
Yes, you
I had
did.
8-hour layover to go there, and I had a 5-hour layover to come back. So I was able to indulge in the international life, drinking, eating all kinds of food.
Mm-hmm.
So
Eating all kind of food? You had like scrambled eggs.
I acclimated fine. Yeah, it was cool.
You had like scrambled eggs at the Qatar airport. What are you talking about?
I got a lot of sleep, and the more you go over there, the more accustomed your body gets to it. And I think the secret is just sleeping whenever you're tired. Not trying to, balance your sleep like you do. You try to get too calculated when you travel. That's what you older white men do. You try to calculate everything.
The only reason
when you're tired, sleep. When you're thirsty, drink. That's the secret.
The only reason you slept well is because I provided you with the ingredients, let's just say, to sleep well, didn't I?
You are a human prescription
Yeah,
drugstore.
yes, I did.
That's another thing you older white men are.
All right, we got a great show for you today. We have a guest on the show today, Sergio. Episode 5 of The Fighter and the Writer, in the first episode where we have a guest. Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing, is going to drop by. Eddie does not have a fight this weekend. The Kakachi Wood fight that's happening on Saturday is a DAZN fight. There's another card in Southern California. But Eddie was at the Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney show in New York City. He also flew over to watch Canelo Alvarez go up against William School. We're going to get his perspective on that. So Eddie Hearn will join us a little bit later in the show. But Sergio, I want to start by talking about the fight that we did not get to talk about last week, and that was Naoya Inoue, still the undisputed 122-pound champion. But he had to work for it on Sunday against Ramon Cardenas. Cardenas came in as a huge underdog, but in the second round, he put Inoue on his backside, and Inoue eventually got up, forced a stoppage in the 8th round to remain undisputed at 122. But your thoughts on how Inoue looked this past Sunday?
I think he's still the monster that he's always been. It's just, he's getting a little long in the tooth. These lighter weight divisions, they don't really grow old. They can't fight into their mid 30s and late 30s like fighters in the bigger weight divisions. So this is just the normal thing you're going to be seeing. You're going to see Inoue get hit more. You're going to see him get not dropped more. He only has been dropped twice by 2 championship level. I mean, Nettie was a champion, and then with Cardenas. But Cardenas is a mean left hook puncher, and he was prepared for this fight. He was hungry to become champion, and he just clipped them. I mean, anytime you have someone that aggressive, that always going for the knockout, you're going to have opportunities to knock them out. That's just the law of the land whenever you're going to be fighting like that. So you live by the sword, you're going to go down by the sword. The thing about Inoue is he gets up and becomes meaner. He's kind of like Felix Trinidad, where he gets dropped and can get up and knock guys out. That's excitement. That's what people pay for. That's why fighters like Trinidad and even Fernando Vargas and plenty other fighters that you can go down where they're vulnerable offensively, but then once they get up, you should have never put them down.
I give Cardenas a lot of credit for how he performed. I think a lot of people, and I put myself in that group, thought he was going to be roadkill. Right? Like I saw the name Cardenas announced, and you look back at his resume, it's just not all that impressive. He does have a good team around him, but he doesn't have the most impressive resume. People were comparing him to a Lyft driver coming in to this fight, and he went out and said, you know what, I may go out, but I'm going to go out throwing punches, go out on my shield, and he did himself proud against one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in all the world. It was really a fun fight for him to be in.
I don't think they were comparing him to a Lyft driver. He was a Lyft driver.
Yeah.
I mean, he went online saying, I'm not driving Lyft anymore. Do you ever hear that?
He was also called like an Uber driver. I mean, look, when Inoue was first announced as coming to the U.S., one of the first names that was on the list was David Picasso. And that's a guy that we've seen a bunch over the years. Legit contender, I think, at 122. When they moved off Picasso and went to Cardenas, I'm like, all right, well, this is just going to be a showcase fight then for Inoue. He did get the stoppage, he did showcase his talents, but he had to go out there and work for it. Let me ask you this, though. Does what you've seen from Inoue at 122 against Neary and against Cardenas now, does that tell you anything about, like, has Inoue reached the limit of how big he should get? Because if you start talking about him going to 126, you've got a guy like Rafael Espinoza there, who we're going to get to in a second. You've got Nick Ball there. You've got some real talented guys. Stephen Fulton now up there.
Leo.
Yeah, I mean, you've got some big, strong guys at 126 that, hit harder and, may be able to finish off Inoue. Inoue, who began his career as a world champion at 108. Do you think he's reached the limit of the weights he should climb?
I think there's no limits to what these smaller men can do, because only 3 pounds separates them from another weight division. So from 108, 3 or 4 pounds. So from 108 to 112, 112 to 118, 118 to 122.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like much to people like you and me.
Let me get there. So they don't rehydrate that much. So they can actually do it and climb it a lot more than fighters that are having to go 6 to 8 pounds in the higher weight divisions. That's one. So the power will travel. Inoue is a God-gifted, great fighter. Not good, not damn good, great fighter. Future Hall of Famer, incredible resume already, incredible accolades that he has already as a 4-division champion. But I could see him going to 126. I mean, look at Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao did the same. He went all the way up to 154. 154. I'm not saying he's going to beat Pacquiao, but I could definitely see Inoue going at least one more weight division and become a 5-division champion, which we've had before. We've had a handful of 5-division world champions. Thomas Hearns was the first one, but Thomas Hearns was 6'3".
Yeah.
This is a 5'5", crazy talented Japanese fighter with dynamite in both hands, but speed. So I just think, he's going to be all right at 126, especially with the guys that you just mentioned. Nick Ball, Angelo Leo, he's going to be fine. He's going to have his hands full and maybe should avoid Espinoza, but that's another thing. That's matchmaking.
So let's talk about Espinoza, who fought on the undercard and knocked out Edward Vasquez. Now, you may look at Edward Vasquez and say, look at the record, average fighter. But we've seen what Edward Vasquez can do. He arguably should have beaten Raymond Ford several years ago. He was in a competitive fight with Joe Cordina a couple of years ago. So Edward Vasquez can fight. And Rafael Espinoza just mowed him down. Rafael Espinoza is a 6'1", 126-pounder. You see him in the ring, and it's like all the kind of freakish guys that we've seen in the past, guys like Ray Vargas and Paul Williams and Sebastian Fundora. Like, it is wild how this guy can cut down 226 pounds. But when he's making it comfortably, and based on what we've seen from him in recent fights, he is making that weight comfortably. He is a monster at 126. What did you think of Espinoza's performance?
He's definitely an elite fighter. He's a champion. He is one of these guys that's going to be hard to prepare for. Like I tell you all the time, whenever you're dealing with an anomaly, like guys that are 6'1" plus, but this guy's a 126 pounder.
Yeah.
I mean, that is incredible. They don't make him that way. So he's just something, he's a freak as far as his size for making 126 pounds being 6'1", just like Sebastian Fundora and the guys you mentioned. Guys like that you can't find sparring for. So those are the issues that fighters are going to be dealing with whenever they're fighting him. You're not going to be able to prepare properly. You can prepare yourself. You can come in with a game plan. You can get the tallest, most available sparring partners that emulate his style. But where the hell are you going to get a Mexican-style, hard-punching, come forward, 6'1" fighter like Espinoza at 126? You're not. So I just think anyone that fights him is going to have issues with that. Espinoza is exciting because he's hittable. Guys like that, you can time them with one punch. Like, look at, you mentioned Sebastian Fundora. He got timed by Brian Mendoza, knocked out. Paul Williams, you mentioned. He got timed by Sergio Martinez. One punch, knocked out. It happens. You can time these guys, but whenever you're trying to out-volume guys like that, good luck. You're not going to keep up with the volume. So you got to try to time them at the right time. So use their height against them. Mike Tyson was good at doing that with taller fighters, just timing guys over the top. You have to have speed, you have to have timing, accuracy, you have to be in shape, and you have to have guts. So it's going to take a lot for someone to come up and do it, but I just described someone like Inoue. Yeah. Inoue has all of the above. So if you're gonna match up Espinoza against Inoue, you still gotta favor Inoue's chances to do something great.
To bring it back to Inoue, if I'm Inoue and his team, Mr. Honda, Top Rank, I'm telling the champions at 126, don't think about my guy until one of your guys is unified. Like, if I'm Inoue, I'm not going up for a one-belt fight against Nick Ball or Angelo Leo or Rafael Espinoza. I want to fight for at least 2, if not 3. So I would tell them, like, look, Inoue is locked in for the remainder of this calendar year. You've got a fight in September. I'm coming against MJ Akbadaliev. That's going to be, I think, a pretty good fight. Maybe we get the Junto Nakatani fight end of this year. If not, definitely into next year. And then also into next year, we could be talking about Inoue in a super fight with Bam Rodriguez. Like the end of 2026, Inoue could be in that mix. By that time, those guys at 126 need to get their act together. I would love to see Espinoza against Nick Ball. A 6'1" featherweight against a 5'2" featherweight. That's a ridiculous matchup. And I would love to see Nick Ball's pressure against Espinoza's size, length, and power.
That's a bad fight for Nick Ball because pressure falls into the hands of another volume puncher that's going to be punching
It's a hell of
down.
a marketable fight, though.
Oh, it's going to be a marketable fight, but that's a bad fight for Nick Ball, who's undefeated, very popular from across the pond UK fighter. You can market him into a star. You can market him into these soccer arenas at 50, 60,000 plus. So why are you going to match him up with an unknown fighter like Espinoza? You'll make the same mistake Josh Warrington made when he fought another tough Mexican, got knocked out in Mauricio Lara. So don't do that. Stay away from the Mexicans, all right? Stay away from the Mexicans if you're across the pond. Just build your brand, build your style, and you're going to be a star. But, stay away from these unknown guys, especially when they're 6'1".
He's not an unknown guy anymore, though. He's fighting on ESPN. He's a world champion. People are starting to get to know Rafael Espinoza. And he has a belt. If you want to become undisputed, you got to beat everybody, Sergio, including the guys that look a little bit tough. All right. Let's spin everything forward a little bit and talk about the Canelo Alvarez-Terence Crawford fight, which we believe... Well, not believe it. It is locked in for September 12th. That's a Friday, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. That's according to Turki Al-Sheikh. The dust has settled on the Canelo Alvarez-William School fight. And just for the record, for the people out there that still believe that William School was competitive, that still believe he did enough to win the fight, go to bed. Go watch something else.
Go to bed. Go to hell. No, you're wrong. All you guys are wrong. You guys are all wrong. So no. I dare anybody to come at me and give me some kind of evidence, some kind of proof to tell me that William School deserved that decision.
Well, the proof they're going to throw at you is the punch count, right? The punch output.
And how many times have I been derogatory towards CompuBox and computers keeping score? Computers
bad note coming from Bob Canobio to you right now.
Computers can't feel pain. Humans make mistakes. Yeah, you could say that computers are, whenever you give a computer an opportunity to judge a fight, it's terrible. They haven't really fixed it. They haven't really made it good. They're getting better, but they haven't made it good because you can't replace the eye of a human. You can't replace the feeling of what a human feels. You can't the reaction time, what they're seeing, experience, all that a computer, you can't download that, man. I'm done with the CompuBox numbers. Give me another example of why William School deserved that decision.
No, I mean, the output of Canelo, like a record low punch output, punch landed output for Canelo. He was obviously looking to slow School down with body shots, which aren't the most eye-catching of shots, at least to the camera eye. Look, you and I are in agreement. I had it 118, 110 for Canelo. I was kind of right in line with the judge that had it 119 to 109, a little bit off the judge that had it 8-4 in favor of Canelo. I thought the 115, 113 scorecard was ridiculous. There's no way you can give 5 rounds to William School. No way on God's earth you could do that. I can't see it. His punching was so ineffective, and so many of his shots were blocked. And how many of his shots did he actually sit down? You probably count on one hand, maybe 2, the number of shots he actually sat down on against Canelo. You don't win fights that way. But we discussed this already. A lot of people I've seen in the last couple of weeks, or a couple of days, I should say, have used this performance to change their mind about how a fight between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford would do. Crawford, of course, all-time great, future Hall of Famer, first ballot, 2-time undisputed champion in 2 different weight classes. And a lot of people are looking at Canelo going, well, this is just another piece of, or example of erosion of the skill of Canelo Alvarez. Did that change your mind at all? The way that Canelo thought about how that fight would play out?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's natural for someone to stay busy, someone like Canelo to stay busy, and then you start picking at the things that you see going wrong with him. He's definitely declining. I mean, there's no denying that. He's going to be 35 years old. He's been fighting professionally since he was 15 years old. All that wear and tear is bound to catch up on you.
A lot of 12-round fights, too.
A lot of 12-round fights, and he's moving up in weight. This is a man that started at 140, and now he's fighting 168 as high as 175 at 5'7". 5'7". So all of that, you combine all that, and he's bound to have a bad night, especially a guy that doesn't want to exchange. Nowadays, a lot of fighters like School are just going to take comfort in picking up that massive payday and lasting the distance with that ignorance, that false ignorance, saying that I went the distance with a great fighter, and that's my claim to fame. School's going to regret it later on in life, because I put myself in William School's shoes when I was watching that fight afterwards. It reminded me of my Mosley fight. I got a lot of heat from that Mosley fight, but I fought with a game plan. My game plan was not to exchange with a legend, not to give him too much, not to stay in the pocket too long. I put myself in School's shoes, and I try to be as understanding as possible. And then I went to go rewatch my fight with Mosley. I actually fought Mosley on the inside in the later part of the fight, especially in the last 4 rounds. I exchanged with Mosley in the last 4 rounds. Now, mind you, the first 8 rounds, yeah, you can call William School all you want. But in the last 4 rounds, especially the championship rounds, I closed out strong. School didn't do that, man. If he would have maintained that discipline and thrown in some exchanges and maybe put yourself at some kind of risk where you're getting hit. I got hit with Mosley. I took his punch, and then I kept coming. He didn't get hit. He didn't get touched to the head, at least. So it didn't feel like a fight. It felt like an exhibition, a sparring session, and a guy that ran. Whenever you're boxing someone, you're boxing them straight ahead. You have to bounce back or bounce to the side to get a counter shot. This guy was boxing squared up the entire square of the fight, moving laterally. That's running. That's not fighting. You're not engaging. You're not going towards your opponent, and your opponent can't close the distance on you, because you can either move left or you can move right and then go all around the whole square of the ring. It was an ugly fight. My opinions haven't changed. I don't want to see William School in a championship level fight again, and he's going to have to do something great to ever come back remotely close to where he was. He blew it.
I agree with everything you said there. Not only did William School execute a game plan that was almost certain not to win him the fight, he fought in a way that is unquestionably certain not to ever get him a significant payday voluntarily, unless a promoter's forced to do it, ever again. Like, I talked to all the promoters, all the managers I usually talk to in the aftermath of that fight. We disagreed about some things. One of the things we all completely agreed on is that William School will never be seen on this stage again. Yep. And that's entirely his fault. No, did he have to go out there and turn a Canelo fight into Gotti Award? No, he didn't have to do that. But he could have engaged more. He could have been more active. He's the naturally bigger man standing in the ring. He didn't have to run as much as he did. He chose to. He made his bed. Now he has to lie in it. Unless the IBF makes him a mandatory again, which they might. You heard my opinion on the IBF during fight night. They might do it. We'll never hear from William School again. But to put the button on the Crawford stuff, I don't change my mind on that. I agree that the erosion of Canelo Alvarez is continuing, and this might be Canelo Alvarez 3.0. 1.0 was the guy coming up 154, early 160. 2.0 was the guy from the second Golovkin fight all the way through the Caleb Plant fight in 2021. I guess it'd be 4.0. 3.0 is...
I was about to say
I'm doing .0s here. I'm all over the place.
GPA start at 4.0 if you're an A+ student, which we're
No, we're going up. We're going up. 3.0 is the guy we saw from that Plant fight through the Edgar Berlanga fight, where he's still strong, he's still powerful, he's still knocking guys down, but he's not going for knockouts. This 4.0 version might be the one that we saw this past weekend. That just, it doesn't cut the ring off as well as he used to, isn't as interested in engaging as much as he used to, probably has some hand issues. Like if you think about it, I mean, that guy, he had surgery on his left hand, I think, and he didn't throw a lot of right hands. I don't know if you noticed that on fight. He didn't throw a lot of right hands against William School. So he's got to be careful with the opponents that he picks. But Crawford, as great as he is, and we both agree that he's great, this is effectively a welterweight moving up to 168. Terrence Crawford has had one fight above 147 pounds, and everyone, including Terrence Crawford, will tell you that was not his finest performance against Israel Madrimov. He is older than Canelo. He is coming up in weight. He is coming off a long layoff. I can't look at Canelo Williams School and say, you know what? Canelo is too far in a decline to beat Terrence Crawford. Not until I've seen what Terrence Crawford looks like at 168 pounds. Not to compare Terrence Crawford to Jermell Charlo, but Jermell Charlo moved up in weight, tasted that power of Canelo Alvarez, and tried to survive for 12 rounds. Again, I think Crawford will do more than that, but I still favor Canelo Alvarez to win.
Yeah, same here. And even though we could see Canelo Alvarez diminishing, we're still going to favor him because he's been in there with the bigger, stronger men. Crawford's not going to be able to hurt him. Crawford will be able to pepper him up, win rounds. Like I tell you, I have an image of Canelo Alvarez after the fight. He's going to be bloodied and bruised because he's going to get pot-shotted by a smaller fighter. It's going to be like Manny Pacquiao when he was facing these bigger fighters. Manny Pacquiao versus Antonio Margarito. I never in a million years thought that Pacquiao was going to do what he did against Margarito. He lit him up, and he pretty much took Margarito's eye and busted them all up. I think Canelo is not Margarito, for one, but he does have the same plodding feet, the same slow feet, the same style. He's getting older, and I could see Terrence Crawford pulling a Pacquiao, especially from that southpaw stance. Not as explosive. He won't throw as many punches as Pacquiao, but I could see him doing something like that from an outside, from the inside, switching stances, and then moving around the ring because Crawford is going to have to move. He can't stay in front of Canelo too long. He's going to throw 2-3 punches, pepper him up, and then get an angle. Then once Canelo starts realizing I'm falling behind here or I'm getting hit too much, I got to do something great. That's when Crawford's going to have to get on his bike. I hate to say bike.
Do you think he has the footwork at this stage, at this weight to do that? Like he's not Crawford? He's not William School. Like he's not going to move like School. The one thing he had going for him was that he was in incredible shape. He's an exceptional athlete, and he is Cuban schooled. He used those footwork to use the entirety of the 20 by 20 foot ring. Crawford at 37, I guess? 37 years old. Does he have the ability to move in the same way?
Yeah, I think he does. Well, he's going to have to.
He is going to have to.
I think early in the fight, he can be able to be himself. He doesn't have to be on the ball of his feet, on his toes, I'm saying, moving around the ring. I think in the second half of the fight, he's going to have to move. I think the first half of the fight, he can be himself, and then he's going to feel the power, and then Canelo's going to start coming on. He's going to feel the timing. It's going to be a competitive fight, the first half fight, but after that, the size is going to come into play, and that's where Crawford's going to have to be careful. That's what makes this fight intriguing. I'm with you, though. I'm favoring Canelo Alvarez. He's been the more active fighter. He's fought the bigger fighters. Crawford, on the other hand, the inactivity is going to catch up to him, I think. No matter how great you are, you're bound to stay out of the ring a little bit too long, get a little bit too comfortable with, complacent with your ability, your greatness, and then that's when you have that one bad night on the biggest possible stage. I think this is the type of fight where it can happen to Crawford.
Yeah, I think it's still an incredibly marketable fight. It's going to be a huge fight to watch on September 12th, but I favor Canelo as well. All right, let's talk about another fight that is potentially still on the table, and that is the Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney rematch. My first reaction, Sergio, to Ryan getting beat was, well, this kills the Ryan-Devin rematch. Subsequently, I've been told that's not necessarily true. I think everything is still in play. What do you think? Is a Ryan-Devin fight worth making right now, or should both these guys take another fight and hope that they both have better results?
If they're going to fight and whet the appetite of all the people that they disappointed this last week, then they have to put it on a massive undercard. They're not going to be the main event.
Oh, Ryan's going to be the main event.
Well, then
whoever Ryan is.
Well, then it's not going to happen. I was going to say put him on the undercard of a Canelo Alvarez, and then all eyes are going to be on them. It's going to be a mega fight, one of the greatest fights in the last 10, 15 years as far as the event goes. It doesn't.
I guess the co-main for Canelo against Crawford is still
that's what I'm saying. So,
out there. I thought Berlanga was going to take that, but no. I mean, look, Munguia might wind up taking it too, so that's another one.
okay, so you're asking me if it's on the undercard of that one, then bring it right back. If it's not going to be on that undercard where it's all eyes on them, then they have to fight someone in between. They need to get their swag back, their respect back. They need to lay someone out. They need to have a performance to remind people, okay, these are the two guys that are accustomed to seeing. Ryan Garcia has a whole lot to prove, more than Devin Haney. Devin Haney at least won his last fight. Ryan Garcia, we don't know what we have. This kid's going through so much in his personal struggles and in and out of the ring, and it's affecting the way he fights. It's affecting his confidence, and it's affecting him as a fighter. I don't think, and I've been telling you this, I don't think we're ever going to see that gunslinging Ryan Garcia that went down against Luke Campbell, got up, and was able to knock this dude out. We're not going to see that guy anymore. And with Devin Haney, I just think he's shell-shocked. I think he's traumatized by that beat down that Ryan Garcia put on him. So both these guys took the best out of each other, man. So I think they got to be very careful who they match up these two fighters with. So to answer your question, Chris, man, should they fight next? Yes, if it's on the undercard of Canelo. If not, no, they shouldn't fight each other next because they have a limited amount of time to be able to make the most amount of money and build the interest to their rematch again, which will be a huge fight. But they have to knock someone out in between and look great. They can't win a decision. They have to come back and turn someone's lights out.
Well, I think there's a 0.0% chance that Haney Garcia 2 is on the undercard of anything, right? Like, if it's a fight that's even under consideration to be on an undercard, it's not worth doing it. Because when it's worth doing it, it's a main event that should do north of 500,000 pay-per-view
You don't
buys.
think Saudi money could get involved, make that fight, say, hey,
sure,
get on the
anything's
undercard?
possible
Well, there
with
you
that.
go.
But
Then why do you say zero?
All right,
You said
0.0001% chance. Let's go with that.
Nonsense, man.
Oh,
You add zeros to both their check, then they're going to come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, but
and win
if
a
you're
fight.
even if you're Turkey Al Sheikh and Sella in Saudi Arabia, why would you do that? Like, why would you waste what could be a big event a year from now on the undercard of a Canelo Alvarez event? Because there still is the possibility, even though it looks bleak right now, that Ryan and Devin can rehabilitate their careers to the point where that is one of the most anticipated matchups in boxing. And Sergio, you know this. You are only as bad as your last performance says you were. Like, we're sitting here, we did last show, talking about how Teofimo Lopez is back. Teofimo Lopez looks sharp against Arnold Barboza. Arnold Barboza was on the rise going to that Teofimo Lopez fight. Now he's in the dumps. So one fight can change anything. My suggestion would be to do a fight between Devin Haney and Rolly Romero. Devin Haney, Rolly Romero, maybe do it in the Bay Area where Devin Haney sells some tickets. Maybe do it in Vegas where Rolly Romero is from. Do that fight for that fictional WBA belt that Rolly Romero won this past weekend. Then Ryan, I don't think it matters who you get Ryan back in with. Get Ryan back in with some kind of top 20, 147-pounder, 140-pounder coming up. Somebody, frankly, like Jose Ramirez, that you can get in front of him, put him in front of a crowd, which I think Ryan Garcia actually needs. I think if anyone that struggled the most fighting in a quiet atmosphere, Ryan Garcia was probably it. Put him in the right environment, and I think Ryan Garcia can get a spectacular knockout. And if Ryan Garcia knocks somebody out in October and Devin Haney beats Rolly Romero in November, April, May 2026, Ryan versus Devin is a big fight once again. All it takes is one more. If you do it now, to me, you're kind of wasting what it could be.
I believe that Garcia and Haney have to come back and knock someone out that hasn't been knocked out before. That's how you turn everyone's disrespect into respect and admiration and be like, okay, they're back. Look, Ryan Garcia's always been calling out Pitbull Cruz. Cruz hasn't been knocked out by anyone, including Tank Davis. Ryan Garcia said he will take that fight. I would love that fight. You want to get your 100% confidence back, and you want to get that mass following that you are slowly losing back. I think that's the way you do it if you're Ryan Garcia. Go after Pitbull Cruz. Devin Haney, he needs to go after someone that hasn't been knocked out, that's been on the championship level, or someone that's a tough guy coming forward. Someone like an Angel Fierro, a top 10.
That doesn't do anything for him. Nobody's ever heard of Angel Fierro.
Okay, well then like a Liam Paro, but Liam Paro's not.
Liam Paro's a 140. Like, no. Why doesn't Rolly make sense to you? Rolly just beat Ryan. He just beat Ryan.
That was a little bit too dangerous for Haney. I think Rolly might.
Well, I mean, you can't put him in with a stumble bum, right? I think Devin.
Angel Fierro's a stumble bum?
No,
He's
but
a
Angel
top 10?
Fierro is not a known commodity. Why would you put him in with a guy that nobody knows?
Because he's a tough, come forward.
So isn't Rolly.
Rolly's dangerous, and Rolly's a champion, and Rolly has
You think,
momentum.
you think Angel Fierro is less dangerous than Rolly? You think Rolly's more dangerous than Angel Fierro?
No, I think
Well, that's what you're kind of saying there.
Yeah, Rolly Romero is dangerous, especially now that he's confident and he's slowed down.
Rolly beat Ryan, so it makes perfect sense to put Devin in with the guy that beat Ryan Garcia. Makes perfect sense.
It does.
Hell, put Ryan in with Jose Ramirez. I don't know.
No, I don't want to see Jose Ramirez.
All right, how about Arnold Barboza goes up in weight? You put him in with Ryan Garcia.
Barboza disappointed too, but I can accept that.
I'm just saying, you need to put these guys in with other people, because if you do that fight right now, the interest is not going to be what it could be. And it's not like Sergio, they're not in their 40s, right? They're in their mid-20s. They still have enough time to rehab their careers. Whether or not you believe they can or not, that's a separate conversation. But chronologically, they still have enough time to do this.
The reason I bring up guys like Angel Fierro, because look at Cardenas, right? He was a nobody, came and gave everything he had because he appreciated the moment, what it was worth, the championship, and the money. These guys that you just mentioned, Barboza, Ramirez, Haney, and all these other guys that have fought them, they've been getting overpaid, and they haven't been really producing. So they got comfortable with that, and they got lazy. They lost their hunger. Give me a hungry Mexican at the bottom of the contender list. That's who they should be fighting next. That's
You just said, but were we talking about Mauricio Lara came out of nowhere? Don't put guys in with these hungry Mexicans?
I'm talking about the British guys should stay away from them.
Okay,
Americans, we're familiar with Mexicans and Mexicans Americans, so that's the way you guys you have to test what you still got. You really have to test what you still got. See if it still has.
You could throw a bunch. Like Arnold Barboza against Ryan at 147. Regis Prograis against Ryan at 147.
Makes sense.
Jack Catterall against Ryan at 147. Like these kind of guys that are good but aren't as threatening. You gotta if you're Golden Boy, you got to match make carefully this next one, because this next one, you need Ryan to look really good. If you're going to try to bring back and revive the Devin Haney fight, you need Ryan to look great. I think Devin against Rolly is a perfect matchup. Devin is not going to go out there looking to knock Rolly out, and Rolly's going to be there to get hit. It kind of reminds me of the Prograis fight in a way. You know, Rolly's just kind of there. He was more disciplined than he usually is in that last fight against Ryan, but you'll be able to hit him with the jab. I think it's a fight Devin can win by a wide decision. And then Devin gets a win, a fake belt. Ryan can get a spectacular win against somebody, get the momentum back. It really is like waiting 6 more months. If you do this in the fall, you're not going to get the same bounce that you potentially could. There's too much upside, I think, to do it right away.
Hey, well, look, it all sounds good. You convinced me. Chris Mannix Promotions, everybody.
There we go. All right, last thing I want to get to is this fight we have this weekend. Queensberry on DAZN. Anthony Cacace against Lee Wood. Anthony Cacace, of course, has come out of nowhere over the last couple of years. Beats Joe Cordina over in Saudi Arabia. Beats Josh Warrington. Whereas Lee Wood has been kind of biding his time as of late. Is coming off some pretty big wins of his own. What do you think of this matchup at 130 pounds?
You know, I watched Cacace's last fight, and then, I've been studying him since we're going to be discussing him. Man, this guy's going to be exciting fighter to watch. He's a southpaw, but he switches stance a lot. So he likes to lead. He likes to lead with that power hand, and he does something really unorthodox. He throws a hook and then an uppercut, and it's a dangerous punch to throw, but he gets away with it because he's so tall for that weight division. He's almost 5'11", and he switches stance. So he's not freakishly tall, but he's out of the ordinary tall. He's not a power puncher. He only has 9 knockouts, but he's a very strong puncher. I think the reason he's not knocking guys out is because he's fighting in 2 different stances, but he's more of a Ricky Hatton type guy where he wants to smother his power. He wants to really break guys down. He take their will, take their heart, and that's how he forces them to submit. But I think if he really fights behind a jab, of course, that would be changing his style. He will be a knockout puncher. Anthony Cacace could be a knockout puncher, and I still think he's going to be the most dangerous fighter, and that's the reason all these guys that he's been beating, Warrington, I think he's going to do well against Lee Wood, and a lot of these guys in this weight division, they better watch out with Cacace, man. This Irishman could fight.
And Cacace is the naturally bigger guy coming in. He beat Joe Cordina at 130, beat Josh Warrington at this weight class. Lee Wood, his last win came against Warrington, but that was at 126 pounds. What Why I kind of like Lee Wood in this fight, though, is that he's trained by Ben Davison. And Ben Davison, whenever I talk to him, and others have talked to him as well, he's been like, I want to be very careful with who I match Lee Wood up with, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he wasn't going to put him in with, like, Nick Ball. Like, that wasn't going to happen. He certainly wasn't going to put him in with, like, a Sugar Nunez or any of the top guys at 130. They were looking for a marketable guy who is beatable. And I think that represents Anthony Cacace. I think Lee Wood, his power, I think is going to carry. I think he's going to be the heavier-handed guy when he gets into the ring with Cacace. And I just think they're going to have a good game plan for how to beat this guy. I mean, look, Cacace, fair play, beat Joe Cordina, but we were there for that fight. He clipped Cordina when the referee said break there. Like, he changed the course of that fight early on with a shot that was definitely illegal to Joe Cordina. And then he beats Josh Warrington, and God knows what Josh Warrington had left at that point. I think Lee Wood, even though this may be the last fight of his career, he's certainly down to the last, 2 or 3. I think he's got enough left in the tank for this particular fight. I think he's going to find a way to summon another great performance, because he really has been on this renaissance over the last few years, like recovering to beat Mauricio Lara. Big event, big fight, big win against Josh Warrington. I think Lee Wood's got one more great fight left in him.
What the hell is renaissance? Why can't you just say rejuvenation or something that I can
Renaissance, revival. Not revival's the wrong
something renaissance. It makes me feel like, I should be dressed different and that classic.
Not everything is like the Renaissance fair, right?
Look, man, you're wrong. Those beatdowns, that he's had, those physical fights that he's had, have taken the best out of Lee Wood. And that's why we've had magic fight of the year type fights with Warrington. Warrington's not the same fighter, and neither is Wood anymore. I think Cacace is on a come up. He should easily be undefeated. He has one loss, but he should easily be undefeated. The size is just too much for these guys. The power comes second. The power comes second to that volume. Cacace could also take a punch. He doesn't really, he knows how to smother guys' power. All wrong for these guys, man. All wrong for these guys. I think he's going to make an example out of Wood. And I think Ben Davison, who's a brilliant trainer, I'm a big fan of his, and I wish him all the best with the strategy they're going to come. But even he's leery and treading lightly with the matchmaking that he's going to be doing. Cacace's the last guy they should be fighting. I think Cacace stops him.
Okay, but Cacace's power, I think, is a little misleading. I think you watch the Cordina fight.
He doesn't have power.
He doesn't. You said strong puncher. You said stop him, though.
I said he's a strong puncher, and his style would
You know when his
him.
last knockout was before the Cordina fight? 2016.
Doesn't matter.
And it was a 6-round fight back in 2016.
Yeah, but he's coming off the two best for
couldn't knock out Josh Warrington at 130. Josh Warrington, who is very, very chinny, like very punchy.
Warrington can move pretty well.
Okay, but Lee Wood got to him in the 7th round of their fight.
Well, listen, this is why we have a show. This is why I always take your money in bets, and this is why we're going to bet on this one.
You do not always take my money in bets. You still owe me $50. What'd you lose me on that?
I forgot, but look, I'll bet you on this one. Anthony Cacace is going to stop Lee Wood.
All right, we're going to get to that, get to our picks later on this week. But when we come back, I will be joined by Eddie Hearn. All right, Eddie Hearn is back. Matchroom Boxing got a busy schedule coming up over the next couple of months, beginning next week with the Johnny Fisher-Dave Allen rematch. And Eddie has been pleading with me for weeks now to make an appearance on The Fighter and the Writer. He's been hearing so much about it. He's been reading so much about it. Everywhere he goes, talking to his own people, they have been talking about it. So, Eddie, welcome to the Fighter and the Writer show.
Thank you, Chris. It's an absolute honor. It's one of the few outlets that I haven't been on yet. And now I feel complete.
Yes, I'm glad I could fulfill that massive pie chart you have of outlets having been on. I want to get your take first on this past weekend, because you remarkably were among the people that went to both the Times Square show and the show in Riyadh. That's a hell of a lot of travel for fight cards you don't actually have anybody on. But you've been promoting events for a long time. The Times Square event was built up. There were a lot of expectations. What was your takeaway of doing the event in Times Square and having it outside in that type of atmosphere?
I mean, look, firstly, let's be honest. It was incredible. Like, let's park the boxing for a second, but the event was incredible. You know, our team worked tirelessly with Ring Magazine, and you know, it. I can't believe they pulled it off. Like when His Excellency said to me, "Let's do an event in the middle of Times Square," I was like, there's absolutely no way that can happen." And I don't think anybody else would have been able to pull it off because there's too much red tape. There's too many no's, and you know, he's got a way of getting through them, but also this kind of relentlessness to find a way through them as well. As a spectacle, you know, the media attention, the numbers, fantastic as well. I've learned over the years that you really like, it's so unpredictable how fights and shows are going to play out. Like I've put cards together in the past where I thought this is just such a great card. And like I've sat there with one fight to go going, I can't believe like this is just not gelled at all. The problem is when you do it on that kind of scale, it magnifies the fact that you got this massive event and all the fights are poor. So, you know, it also didn't help that 6 days before was Ben Eubank, 65,000, and just like an all-time British classic war. So, look, Tio, you know, I was actually arguing a bit with Coppinger because Coppinger was like shouting Tio's praises. Oh, it was unbelievable. And I was like, it was okay. Like, that was actually the one fight that was, you know, a bit more lively, if you like. I didn't think Tio did anything that really was special on the night, but it was an okay performance. Devin, you know, like I'll always back Devin, and I really feel like he had a lot of demons to overcome that night, but he didn't do a very good attempt at masking them. Do you know what I mean? It was like I was getting messages from the second round going, Devin looked petrified. Like, what, you know? And again, like he went through a lot in that Ryan Garcia fight. Like, but he was just moving. So like Skull moved, but Devin moved like a hare. You know, I mean, he was just it was frantic. And actually, when he held his feet the few times that he did, he hurt Ramirez actually repeatedly. And I felt that with his size, if he would have held his feet, he would have 100% stopped Ramirez in there. But, you know, I don't know if he's not the same fighter or he just needed those rounds to get over those barriers. And then we moved on to Ryan Garcia, which was just bizarre. I mean, no one really did anything. And you know, I was sad for Ryan actually, because I think he's done incredibly well to get himself back in the game. Like he was mentally shot to pieces in the Devin Haney fight. And now he looks great. You know, he's fresh-faced again and all this kind of stuff. But I don't know what he was doing. Like, was it just that he got dropped? I mean, there is definitely an element of that weird, and I said it in the build-up to his fight. I said, it's hallucinogenic out there. You're pulling up in a Batmobile in Times Square. Your face is all over these screens. Then you go down this little thing and you walk out and there's like 150 people there and you're thinking, what on earth's going on here? Then you're flat. Then you can't really get yourself up for it. But these are all the things that you've got to prepare for pre-fight. And you can't just let it pass you by on the night and then go, oh, well, the atmosphere was weird. It's like, Derek James was telling him the right things to do, but he never really tried. And I don't know, is that the moment? Is it the confidence? Is he falling out of love with it all? Did he get hurt and think, I don't want to engage? None of them are particularly encouraging. But Rolly didn't really do anything. You know, it was just a weird fight. And so look, it put, you know, Haney was getting in the ring after to do the face-off. You got the big rematch. Now the rematch is in tatters. It's just of no value. I mean, it's not no value, but nowhere near the value that it was. And I think both guys need another fight, if I'm honest. I mean, Ryan has to. I mean, he can't. You know, I don't know if there's a rematch clause. I mean, again, you're not going to be screaming to see both guys anytime soon. They've got to go out there and put a performance together. And I heard Oscar's rant. You know, and, you know, like, I guess it's easy for us to say. I mean, Oscar was a fighter. So he comes with a little bit more credibility when you're talking about what fighters should be doing for the money and stuff like that. I think for me to say it, it's a bit not disrespectful, but it's a tough sport. I don't think it's not easy to go, guys, go in there and just have a war. Do you know what I mean? But he is right. Like, it's the entertainment business. You're getting all that money. You kind of, it's the same for Canelo, if I'm honest. Like, I ain't really ever going to talk badly about Canelo, but when someone's paying that much money and the eyes of the world are watching, and especially you're traveling, do you know what I mean? You're going there to showcase, like, I know it's not easy, but at the same time, like, I think everybody's stock fell on Friday and Saturday. That's the reality.
I do agree with you that if a Ryan Devin rematch is going to be rebuilt, they both need one more fight. I would put Devin in with Rolly, frankly. I think that's a decent matchup for him. And I'd put Ryan in against a guy that is eminently more hittable, although Rolly should have been more hittable. And maybe in an environment he's more comfortable with. Maybe you put him in Southern California, back in kind of an atmosphere that he's used to, and maybe that will jog something in. Maybe that will get him back.
At the same time, like when you're getting all that money and you know what you're signing up for, you've got to be a little bit mentally tougher than that. And so, like he was like, but it is weird. You got Richardson, Hitchens down there. You got Mike Tyson shouting something out over there,
and he said he could hear them all.
Everything, But you've got the thing is about Ryan and Devin. They're just not like, and this is a non-PC word, I guess, to use in this fight, but they're not killers. Do you know what I'm saying? And not in that respect, but just in that like the stone cold, like, and that's what was so impressive going back to like Ben. Like if Conor Ben was in the ring on Friday night, right? From the first bell, he would have fought the same way that he fought at Tottenham. Honestly, he fights the same way all the time. Do you know what I mean? He wouldn't have gone in there and gone, oh, it's a bit quiet in here. I'm just, it's a bit weird. I'm going to like just not throw any punches. It's like, you've got to have the mentality. And I thought it can happen. But it was disappointing on that grand stage.
You mentioned Conor Benn. He was in New York, as you said, calling out, I think, literally everybody. I think he was down to fight anybody. That being said, Eddie, we just watched a anticipated Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney rematch effectively get flushed for now. Did seeing that change your perspective on a Ben Eubank matchup? Because just as easily as it's big, it can go to a lesser version if both these guys don't perform in their next fight out against somebody else.
Yeah, no, I think that we've both signed a 2-fight deal to fight each other. So contractually, that's next. Now, if it falls through for any way, I guess it's always possible. But
you and Ben Shalom seem to have a slight difference of opinion on what that contract says and how much.
Because we both, don't forget, with this new way of the world, we have individual contracts with the Ring magazine. This isn't a POS between Matchroom and Boxer, where we've seen quite often that some of the contracts don't quite match up. But our contract is very clear. It's a 2-fight deal on the same terms as the first fight. They also have a 2-fight deal, which they're acknowledged. They're saying there's a few bits on the weight that, have got to be agreed and not in our contract. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But if if for some reason Eubank swerves the rematch, then we can look at Devin, Ryan, Rolly, Boots. I mean, Conor's got a massive reception in America. Like, he's up for fighting anyone. But we also acknowledge we've just seen one of the greatest British fights of all time, and the rematch is astronomical. So I know His Excellency will be pushing for that rematch because the numbers were great and they'll be even better second time around.
Have Conor's been most vocal about Mario Barrios, who seems to just be sitting there hoping like Manny Pacquiao loses a Senate election and he can get in with him. Have you talked to Louis DeCubas, PBC about Barrios? What are they telling you about his availability?
Not post. I'm being told the Pacquiao fight's done, which is just absolutely bizarre. Like, I mean, 2 years ago, I talked about Conor Benn fighting Manny Pacquiao, right? I got absolute pelters, right? You're a disgrace. Pacquiao's finished. How can you put him in with Conor Benn? I mean, Conor Benn, whose best win before that was Chris Algieri, right? Apparently, it was disgraceful to see Conor Benn fighting Manny Pacquiao in a 10 or 12 rounder non-title fight. Now you're talking about Manny 2 years on. And by the way, seeing some exhibitions where you clearly know he's not anywhere near the fighter that he once was, fighting for the WBC world title. It's ridiculous. But anyway, so that, as I understand, is happening in July. So, you know, Barrios isn't available at the moment. We love the fight. And with Conor's profile, we can bring that fight and pay great money for it now. That's the difference. And you know, at some point, we will be returning to 147 and we will be trying to win a world title.
All right, let me ask you about the fight we had in Saudi Arabia, Canelo against William School. I get what you're saying about Canelo needing to be entertaining. I still, if I'm, again, go back to the blame pie here, I'm throwing 95% of that at William School. I mean, he to me, Eddie, he did not come to win. You can throw punch stats in my face. You can throw accuracy or punches landed in my face. That's not a guy that came to Saudi Arabia to win. Could Canelo have cut the ring off better, done more? Yeah, but I've seen some people out there talking about a school masterclass in boxing. I don't get that. I've seen some people suggest that this is a sign of Canelo taking another step off the ledge a little bit, aging a little bit more. I might be able to buy into a little bit of that, but I don't know what you thought of how that fight played out, but I did not believe from moment one when I saw how William School was going to fight that he was coming to win. I thought he was coming to go 12 and then to do exactly what he did and say, you know what, I boxed. I did what I did. I don't know what the judges were thinking. How did you see that fight?
Very disappointing. I mean, you know, and I agree with you. I think it's not Canelo's fault that Skull decided to fight like that. I mean, I actually had it quite close, if I'm honest. 115,
Wow.
113, 116, 112. That was the two judges' scorecards. And I had Skull winning the fight. Like, I was sitting next to Crawford. After about 7 or 8 rounds, Crawford had Skull well up. I mean, we had your scorecards in front of us, kept popping up on them. And I'm kind of like, one, I'm so tired. And two, I'm like thinking, I'm not really sure what's going on here. But then I'm thinking, Canelo's just like winging a couple of shots in per round. And Skull's at least putting the jet. I don't know. Terence, what do you think? And he goes, I've got Skull well up. And then Skull went from like being a little bit tricky early to doing the same thing. And then Canelo just stepped on the gas a little bit and like 9, 10, 11, 12. Like he just started winning a round. So because no one really did anything, I had it quite close. I thought Canelo won the fight. You know, there's no doubt. But I think that Canelo hates fighters that move. Hates them. I mean, we saw it in the Charlo fight where he did a similar thing. You know, he boxed off the back foot, not quite as aggressively in his movement as Skull. But if I'm Terence Crawford, I'm watching that fight going, I mean, if you didn't like Skull's movement, you're really not going to like Crawford's movement because he'll land as well with the move. Like he'll actually throw. And I think at some point Canelo is just going to get a little bit old over, you know. And what's amazing about Saul is he has this desire. Like he's not taking his foot off the gas. He's training hard. But I just wonder whether, you know, it may change in the Crawford fight because I do think that is a fight where he will be really motivated. But I don't know whether it's just a real bad style matchup for him, you know. And I do think the size will play a part. I think it's not dissimilar to the Dimitri Bivol fight in the sense of how Crawford could box in that fight. Do you know what I mean? Like he's got the ability to keep him off and show angles and then a spurt of aggressiveness to do enough to reset and then or to take Canelo off his. I don't know.
But can he back him up? That's my big thing. Bivol backed him up.
He doesn't, but I don't. Yeah, but I think he can back him up. Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't think he can stop him, but Bivol didn't have to stop him. I was really leaning towards Canelo Alvarez before Saturday, and look, we can't take too much from it, but the thing is about Terence, he has unbelievable self-belief. I mean, I was having a debate with him, like as a friendly debate, whereas like I kind of said to him, "You're unlucky because you just haven't got the resume of a generational great, and I think you are one. Don't get me wrong, this is the fight that could give you that." And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, but if you look at who he's beaten, it's not really his fault. But like Canelo's resume is unbelievable, but he's definitely past his best, Canelo. It's a really intriguing matchup. Really intriguing matchup. I don't know which.
I couldn't get. I didn't have it. I had 118, 110 was my final scorecard. I can't when a guy is not stepping into anything, and that's what I saw.
You know what it is? Yeah, different people score. Like I probably score it similarly to you. I had it much closer than that. I still had him, 2, 3, 4 rounds, whatever.
Yeah.
But Crawford, those guys, they look at something different.
Yeah.
So Crawford's going, are you joking? Like he hasn't landed on Skull. Like he's swung a few body shots in. Skull's active with the jab. He's doing it. And the one thing Skull was actually doing, which was weird, was he was throwing with Canelo when they engaged on the ropes, which was just bizarre. He was like running. And then when Canelo, he'd go with him. Do you know what I mean? So it was just a weird one to watch,
I don't think you'll be putting William School on a...
No, I mean, that is the problem.
That's the problem, yes.
When you fight like that.
Yeah. It's brutal. One other piece of news, Eddie, that came out of Saturday that I didn't see coming. Anthony Joshua saying he's going to have surgery on his elbow. How long has this been bothering him, and what does that do for his 2025?
So he had a niggle in the Dubois camp. To be honest with you, his elbow, it's heavy duty stuff, right? These big guys. It didn't affect him in the fight at all. I'd love to tell you it did, but it didn't. He had a great camp. And in the fight, he aggravated it, got a little bit worse. So then we were told that the Dubois fight could happen in February. And we were like, there's absolutely no chance he's going to be ready for February. We said, let's start talking about going back to camp around that time, let it rest up, blah, blah, blah. Went back in February and still aggravated. Saw a specialist who said 4 to 6 weeks, rehab, should be fine, blah, blah, blah. We ran that out, went back, still not right. So now they've said, right, we're going to have to go in. It's a small keyhole procedure, 4 to 6 weeks recovery. So the reality is he's not going to be ready to fight till post-September. Right, but he's only going to fight once this year. That's the reality. So it doesn't, if we have to wait till October or no, it doesn't really matter. It's getting the decision right in terms of who he's going to fight. I mean, I don't mind the delay because it opens up the Dubois fight if he was to win for undisputed. It also opens up a potential Tyson Fury comeback and see what's happening. So I don't know when he's going to be back. It will be from September. And he will only fight once this year. So he's having that done, I think, next week. And then just get right and ready for the last little run.
You were sitting with Frank Warren, with George Warren. As far as I know, they're saying that they don't know what Tyson's going to do. At the same time, he's on social media with Sugar Hill. That tells me he's got something in mind. What's your read right now on what Tyson Fury is?
I can't believe he won't fight again. Can't believe it because one, he's still in good form. I mean, I know he lost to Usyk, but I felt they were very competitive, close fights. Two, there's massive money on the table for him to fight AJ. I mean, I know he's obviously got a load of money anyway. And I think three, he loves to box. I think he loves boxing. I think he would have watched Ben Eubank and gone, well, we can do something even bigger than that. And it would be. It would just be huge. So I've just learned over the years with Tyson, like the worst thing you can try and do is kind of goad him into doing anything. He's completely his own man. He'll make his own decisions. When the time's right, he'll reach out or someone will reach out. Um, but no inkling as to what he will do. But I do believe we'll see him in the ring again.
All right, last thing for you. It sure looks like Brian Norman is going to go over to Japan to fight Jin Sasaki. I don't know if that's official yet, but it's obviously trending in that direction. Some of the talk I've heard out of Norman's camp is, well, Boots isn't available this summer. He's got mandatories. A unification fight wouldn't be on the table right away. We're going to go to Japan, make some money, fight Jin Sasaki. You're smiling. Like what is real with all this?
It's absolutely available now. I mean, we've made them an offer last week. And we've even said to them, if you are taking that fight in Japan, let's lock the fight in for after that. October, November, December, whenever. And they come back and say, we don't want to talk about any other fights until we have this fight. I'm just like, fuck. So I don't know. I mean, we can't rely on Brian Norman to chase any kind of greatness because the purse is outrageous in terms of what he's made. And, it's a massive purse that we've offered him. So I don't know is the answer. I mean, we have got the Shakram Gearsov mandatory, which, isn't really the fight that we want, but we understand the position. He stepped aside to allow the Stanionis fight. And then the other fight is Teofimo Lopez, which His Excellency seems to want us to take. Tio's called it out. I love the fight in terms of our ability, our chances of winning that fight. I think it's a good fight, profile-wise. It's not... Jaron is very clear on what he wants. Belts, unifications, and undisputed. So when I talk to him about the Tio fight, he's kind of like, yeah, I don't mind it, but it's like, not really. What about the titles? So if we can't get a title, and if there's a way, to deal with Shakram Gearsov, whether that's fight him in the meantime or whatever, we're open to the Teofimo Lopez fight. I think it's a great fight. And respect to Tio if he wants to jump up and take it.
And if you have to, Chakram did do you guys a solid, stepped aside. You got a fight, got some money. But obviously, given what he's going through, and it has gone through,
and he's our
he
fighter.
wants to fight. Yeah.
Well, he's our fighter. He's our friend. Vadim and those guys are our partners in so many different fighters. MJ, who's now got the Inoue fight, and Bivol and all these guys. So one thing we're not doing is going to be smart and let people down. So we've got to make sure we treat everybody fairly and get a resolution.
Real quick, Bivol was also in Saudi Arabia. Are we still trending towards the trilogy fight with Beterbiev?
Yeah. I believe October, November time. His Excellency had a chat with him there, and again, I think Dimitri had a small injury that he's getting over from the last fight, but he'll be ready to go. And I'm sure he'll do an even better job in the trilogy.
All right, Eddie. I know you are ecstatic to have this opportunity, so you're welcome.
I'll sleep so much better tonight.
Eddie Hearn, I always appreciate your time.
Cheers, mate.
All right, we're back, Sergio. Before we get to our picks, I want to get your take on something Eddie Hearn said during the interview, is that he believes that a Manny Pacquiao against Mario Barrios fight is signed, done for July of 2025. Pacquiao is 46 years old. We haven't seen him in the ring in years. Are you cool with Pacquiao against Mario Barrios?
I am. I'm cool with it. If I was cool with Manny Pacquiao coming back and fighting Keith Thurman, I'm definitely going to be cool with this one. Barrios is not a puncher. Thurman was one of the biggest punchers in boxing. I think he's going to be just fine with Mario Barrios, who we know what he is on the top level. He comes up short. He's been stopped by fighters that are less than Manny Pacquiao, Tank Davis. So I like this fight. I think he's not going to be an overwhelming favorite, but I think it'll be a 50-50 fight, regardless of his inactivity and age. His explosiveness, even at this age, his greatness, and the fact that you can never know what Barrios you're going to get. And yeah, man, I like this fight. Why not? Nostalgia, marketable. Everyone will be behind him. It'll be internationally successful. I'm in.
How are you comparing Pacquiao coming back this summer at 46 after not fighting in 5 years to Pacquiao in 2019 fighting Keith Thurman, which came after back-to-back wins over Lucas Batiste and Adrian Broner? Those two scenarios could not be more different. Like, yeah, Keith Thurman was undefeated, was a top guy at 147, but those scenarios could not be any less different.
What I'm saying, the fact that Keith Thurman was somewhat active champion, and Pacquiao just came out of nowhere. You never thought he was going to face Pacquiao. Thurman should have been facing all the other PBC guys.
Well, everybody wants to face Pacquiao at that point. Pacquiao was the lottery ticket right then.
Well, he's not the lottery ticket no more, but he's still great.
Well, that's why. Look, this is why Barrios. Look, whatever. That's kind of my take on this fight. Like, if Pacquiao wants to come back as a Hall of Famer and fight one more time, whatever. He didn't look good against Yordenis Ugas, and that was 5 years ago. We've seen him in these exhibitions looking fleshy, to say the least.
Fleshy.
He's going to get back down to 147, be in fighting shape at 146 or at 46 to fight Mario Barrios. Okay. Barrios is probably the only welterweight he can be competitive with because Barrios kind of washed too. And Barrios has been waiting for this. Like, Barrios has had opportunity after opportunity to fight someone like Boots Ennis, someone like Brian Norman, a bigger fight. Barrios, this is his cash out. This is the literal interpretation, definition of a cash out fight. Like, Barrios, he knows he's probably only got one fight left at the top level. He's taken an opportunity, potentially, most likely, to fight Manny Pacquiao. Whatever. It's meaningless because if Barrios wins, he's never going to fight a Boots Ennis. If Pacquiao wins, he's not going to fight anybody ever again. So I'm kind of indifferent to the whole thing. I don't really have much of an interest in seeing Manny Pacquiao back in the ring. It was a great run. It ended against Yordenis Ugas. He's in the Hall of Fame. Salute Manny Pacquiao, but to me, I don't really care. All right, let's get to this week's picks, and I want to start, Sergio, with Anthony Cacace against Lee Wood, a fight that we were just talking about. That fight over in Nottingham, England. Cacace entering as a slight favorite here. What are your thoughts?
I just told you my thoughts earlier in the segment. I think Cacace has momentum. He's coming off his back-to-back performances. He's a pressure fighter. He's a strong puncher. He's not a power puncher, but he breaks down guys appropriately because he's tall, punches down. He throws awkward combinations with the same hand, uppercuts and right hooks with the same hand. He switches stances. I like everything about Anthony Cacace. I think Lee Wood's in trouble.
All right, so you're taking Cacace by stoppage.
I think I'm taking Cacace by late stoppage, 9-10 rounds.
All right, I'm taking Lee Wood to win a decision. I think that Wood and Ben Davison know what they're doing. I think they know the guy that they're getting in the ring with, and I do think we might be overrating Anthony Cacace a little bit based on the performances against Joe Cordina, who wasn't at his best, against Josh Warrington, who was far from his best. I think Lee Wood still has one great performance left in him. I think we're going to see it against Anthony Cacace. I'm taking Lee Wood to win by decision. Another fight we disagree on is the fight happening down in San Diego. You've got Emmanuel Navarrete defending his version of the 130-pound title against Charlie Suarez. Now, I had to look up Charlie Suarez. I didn't know who Charlie Suarez was.
Me too, by the way. All right?
Okay, all right. So I didn't know who Charlie Suarez was. Undefeated fighter. Very much an unknown fighter. You have a hot take, I think, on the outcome of this fight.
2 weeks ago, I gave everyone a hot take on major underdog, and I won. I forgot which one it was already, but I won. And everyone was congratulating me. Oh, my God, how did I pick it? I got another one for you guys. I think this man Suarez is going to be doing something special. I watched him fight. He's a tricky fighter, man. First of all, he's an Olympian, and he's one of these small guys that knows how to fight small, quick in and out movement. I think he's going to give Navarrete a lot of issues. Navarrete is a pressure, big, strong fighter, but he has no head movement. If you stand in front of him, he's going to be a monster. This man is not going to stand in front of him. I'm telling you, I like this upset. This is going to be one of my greatest picks ever.
If you get this right, and you're taking Suarez by decision.
I am.
if you get this right, I will bow down. On the next
You heard him.
Fighter and the Writer, I will begin the show bowing down to your prognostication greatness. Charlie Suarez's resume stinks. It stinks, right? He's 36 years old. You look up and down his resume, and it's not loaded with good fighters. Emmanuel Navarrete is definitely a flawed fighter, but at 130, he has been excellent. 135, lost to Dennis Baranchik. That certainly goes against him. But at 130, he is still one of the better fighters in that weight class. I think he stops him. I think Navarrete gets to him with one of those wild exchanges. Maybe it's an uppercut. Maybe it's a power shot of some kind. I don't know. But I like Emmanuel Navarrete by knockout. All right, the last one I want to get to is the Raymond Murataya-Zaur Abdullayev fight. We're talking about it because it is for an interim 135-pound championship. The IBF recognizes Vasily Lomachenko as its full champion. Lomachenko is on a hiatus of sorts. It may turn out to be a retirement, so the IBF is sanctioning this fight as an interim title fight. I think this has a chance to be a really interesting fight, Sergio. What do you think?
I think you're wrong. I think it's time for Raymond Murataya to come out and shine, do something great. Zaur Abdullayev was a fantastic amateur. We've seen what he did against Devin Haney. Haney wasn't a puncher at 135. He was able to stop him. It was a fantastic knockdown. He was able to stop him later in that fight. Murataya is much bigger, much stronger, hungrier. I think it's going to come down to hunger here. And the fact that he has Robert Garcia in his corner, you know he's going to be well prepared, hungry, with the right game plan and strategy behind it. Man, he's going to beat down Abdullayev. I think it's going to be a stoppage.
I think Abdullayev is a live dog because that Haney fight, I think you got to go back and like kind of look at it. Like, yeah, I think Haney was on his way to winning a decision there, but it was stopped because I believe Abdullayev busted up his nose in that fight. Haney busted up Abdullayev's nose. Since then, he's gone undefeated. He's got some interesting names on his resume along the way. I do agree that Murataya ultimately gets the job done. I think Murataya is starting to peak. That win he had over Tevin Farmer has aged really well in the aftermath of Tevin Farmer's fights against William Zepeda. Fought another fight back in November, has gotten a win. Robert Garcia being in his corner, I think, is a plus. I think it's a competitive fight, but I think Murataya wins a decision. That would be my official pick, Murataya by decision. What was your official pick there?
Murataya by stoppage. I think he stops him.
Okay.
He stops him in that fight. I think, Abdullayev is good if he's in control, but, Murataya is not going to let him be in control. He's going to have to fight him off. I think that's where he's going to get in trouble.
All right, those are our picks this week. If Sergio turns out to be correct, I guess I'll be bowing down and saying you are. I'm
going to hold you up on that because that's going to be special for me. But hey, people have been making money with me in the last 2 weeks. This is going to be my best pick yet.
All right, we'll see.